Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at strength cards, and as always I'd like to start with the Rider-Waite Smith. This is the picture of the woman with the lion, and it's an iconic picture, although it's not as revolutionary as it would seem. Rachel Pollack talks about the fact that there are sculptures and pictures of women with lions in the Mediterranean and Africa going back about 4,000 years. So this idea of a woman and a lion, and the lion actually being the goddess many times, is very, very old. Originally, this card was called Fortitude, which is not a word we use very much anymore, so I think it was a good idea to change it just to Strength. And it was also originally number 11 in the deck, and it was changed in the Rider-Waite Smith deck to number 8. They did it for astrological reasons, and I don't necessarily think that makes that much sense. For one thing, it turns a quintessentially feminine into a masculine sign. Leo is seen as a masculine sign. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But what does make sense is when Rachel Pollack talks about studying the tarot in groups of 7, the Fool being the Traveler, and then 3 groups of 7. Strength is the 8th card. That means it's the first card of the second group of 7. And in that group, we're going to encounter a lot of difficult things. It makes total sense here for Strength to be there before you go on to those other cards. She also points out that when you do it this way, that 11 sort of forms a kind of hub. It's right in the very center of the deck because there are 22 cards, so you can put 10 cards on either side and Justice is in the center. We'll talk more about the Justice card when we get to it, but Justice as a sort of controlling principle in the tarot is very interesting when you think of it as a central card. So what we're seeing here is a woman in white. It's a sunny day. This is a very positive card, and she is closing the mouth of a lion, and she's doing it very gently. She's got a white robe on, so there's purity there, but she's also wearing some kind of garland of red roses. So there's also passion involved. If you remember, we just did the Chariot, which had to do with really becoming autonomous, becoming a young adult. This one, what happens at that time in your life, if you think about it in a linear way, is we encounter what my son used to call the beast. It's that time when all of a sudden our sexuality becomes awakened, and it can feel like a beast because it can feel all-consuming, and it's so strong. I mean, what is more strong than our drive to reproduce, to continue? This is the life drive awakening in us, but it can feel like a beast. So this is, I think, developmentally dealing with what do we do, when that beast shows up. Do we just let it take over, or do we learn how to control it? And this seems very much like a card of learning how to control that. And I could extend that to other shadow aspects as well, but I really think, it depends on whether you want to look at something just developmentally or if you want to look at it in other ways that aren't linear at all. But certainly those parts of us that can seem like they can get out of control, that are not necessarily rational, but are very, very strong, we have to learn how, as an adult, to deal with those. Not to shut them down, but how to control them. And I love the way she is so gentle with him. There's also this Lemniscate that's over her head, so this has to do obviously with eternity, with I feel more of a spiritual aspect. I actually want to go on to the second card because I did write about this, but I enjoy the universal weight so much because of Mary Hanson-Roberts' wonderful watercolors that I decided to write the poem about that one rather than the Rider-Waite Smith. So you can see this is actually a little bit more of a close-up of the Rider-Waite Smith. The colors are a little bit more gentle. This is Pamela Coleman Smith's drawing, but Mary Hanson-Roberts watercolors. And in general, I find the deck a little bit more gentle to look at. And so when I reach for a Rider-Waite Smith clone, this is usually the one that I'm reaching for. I just love the curls on this lion. And I love that he is licking her wrist. So she is being very gentle, but very firm. This is a particular kind of strength and that we are being shown in this card. So let me read the poem. It's called She Holds Him. She closes the lion's mouth. He would like to escape, but she holds him under his chin, presses firmly on his snout. His mane falling in curls, his tail twitching slightly between his legs. Her hands are gentle. He licks her wrist. Perhaps she will sing. I couldn't help but notice that the tail was between his legs because dogs do that when they're, if they've been in a fight or they're being dominated in some way, their tail goes under. And I don't know actually if lions do that. I'm not sure I've ever seen it in a cat, but I did see that, and I saw that as kind of a sign of his acquiescing to her dominance, to her control of him. He looks up at her face, which is very gentle. And so again, it's this gentle strength. And then that licking of her palm. And then the poet of me comes in and says, perhaps she will sing. It seems that there has to be like a reciprocity and a hopefulness on the part of this lion, because this lion is not bad. This is our desire. She is just saying we have to keep this under control, and and he is hoping for at least some expression. He gives her some affection, and for me that indication of, what will I be allowed to do? Or what will she give me in return for my calming down is song. And perhaps she will sing. I like the hopefulness of that. I think it goes along perfectly well with the attitude of her body and the gentleness that she would speak kind words to him and perhaps even sing. And so that's that card and that poem. This next card is another card that's very much drawn from the Rider-Waite Smith. It's a close-up, and it is Mary Hanson-Roberts. This is a small deck, and it's even smaller because I trimmed it. I think for me, one of the things that became clear is that this relationship that she has with this lion is one that has something to do with desire. And I say that for a number of reasons. One, his head is thrown back. And his head is thrown back in that way that, I don't know about lions, but I don't know if all mammals do it, but we do that in ecstasy. We do that in sexual ecstasy. And we also do that in moments of extreme grief. So that throwing back of the head, he is clearly enjoying her touches. The other thing is right next to them, the red roses have been really emphasized. So there's passion there. And they are echoed in the rubies that she has around her neck. But this particular necklace is quite low on her neck, so her neck is very bare. She's got her eyes closed. She's not afraid of this lion at all. There is a relationship between them that is not just, I'm dominating you, I'm controlling you, but I am allowing desire into my life. And I think that's really important. So let me read the poem. Desire. His head is bent back in the ecstasy of touch. He cannot get close enough. Her eyes are closed. All she wants is to feel him against her. his large head, his curly mane. The red roses match the rubies she wears. Her throat so bare, she so unafraid. So this is a slightly different take on this card. So this passion that we first encounter in this card, what I believe about the erotic is that it is sacred. What I believe is that the erotic energy is something that runs through us, through the whole universe. That, that which is in the center of stars and that which is the erotic drive in ourselves and in the rest of the world, that life force is the erotic. And I know that at least one deck, and I think it was probably the Crowley deck, changed the word to lust, which puts a dimension of evil onto it. Lust being one of the 7 deadly sins or whatever. But desire is not lust. Desire comes from that deep erotic place. It can be revolutionary. It can be in resistance if we are in good relationship to it. The erotic can be a huge reservoir of strength, and not just sexual. I want to say erotic doesn't mean only sexual. It is that life energy. And I think that this card really brings that out. I love also, this is just a little detail that just caught my eye, but she's got laurel leaves on, and laurel leaves were traditionally given to someone who has achieved something or won something. They're often worn by heroes and so forth. So here she is unafraid. She has not only tamed the lion, but in some ways fallen in love with the lion, and vice versa. This is a reciprocal relationship, and she can relax into it, knowing that it will not overtake her, that she will be in control as much as she wants to, and yet can give herself to it, can allow this erotic energy into her life. So I totally love this card. This next card I want to share with you is from one of my favorite decks, the Golden Tarot. And if you've been watching the videos, you've seen that I've included images from this deck several times. I will say again that this deck is a collage deck created from Renaissance painting. I love so much about this. It's a very odd looking lion, I have to say. She must have had to search, and she's given the lion wings, which is kind of interesting. I love the beautiful gold dress that the young woman is wearing, and the look in her eyes. And of course, she has the lemniscate again above her head. This lion is not threatening her in any way. He is kind of leaning against her the way sometimes I've seen big dogs do, but ready to protect her, as you can see in his sort of, not exactly a growl, but kind of a little bit of a warning there, like, stay away from her. So I thought that was very interesting. Then what you see in the background is a whole new aspect to this card, which is a knight coming on a white horse. He's got, I'm not sure if it's a bird of prey or just a crow, but anyway, he's coming, and he's coming quickly because here's this poor maiden who may be in trouble. And I just thought, he has not a clue. I loved it because it gave me a different look at the woman with the lion, and yet it was still from that card. And the other thing about it is it made me laugh. And so I'd like to read you the poem. It's called The Lady and the Lion. Above her head, a halo of twining snakes. The young woman in the gold gown with its richly embroidered bodice and square neck edged in lace is daydreaming of infinity. The lion is resting one paw on her sleeve, The other is clasped in her hand. He leans against her like a big dog. Behind her, a knight carrying a pole and banner charges toward them on a white horse as if she needs him. At her slightest word, the lion would devour him. So I just really saw this card as a woman's empowerment card in a lot of ways, especially during the time of these artworks that she was working with. Of course, women were supposed to be, young maidens that were always being saved from dragons and beasts of all kinds. And in this case, the lion, if we think about the lion as desire, there was this whole tradition of courtly love where you would have essentially love affairs that never completely were fulfilled. You would have to save a young woman from desire, which would be lust, which would be sinful. And this is what this knight's coming along to do. And the look in her eye is just, oh, please. And if only he knew, this lion could devour him with just one word. That's all she would have to say. She is so much more powerful, and the card is so much more weighted artistically in that direction. The gold and the deeper brownish gold of the lion, as opposed to this sort of white, almost I would say out of control horse. You can't even see the knight's face. He's so impersonal. So this just feels to me like the patriarchy, some guy is just going to come in and save you from something you don't need to be saved from. And I love it. I saw that Lemniscate as the two snakes, which sometimes it is shown as the snake with the tail in its mouth, the Ouroboros, that she is daydreaming of infinity. She's thinking about other things. She's not thinking about this knight. And she can daydream because she's in total harmony with this lion. She is fine. This is a relationship that is very balanced. She is aware of her desires. She is in harmony with them. And so for me, I thought, this is interesting. This card came out, I think the deck came out in 2003 or 2004. And I loved it, that she could take cards from that period and somehow turn it into a woman's empowerment card. I really, really did love that about it. So I wanted to share this with you. This next card is from the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. And you can see right away that this is a variant on the Rider-Waite-Smith. For one thing, it is a wolf. It is not the lion. So the thing is that in the European forest, there aren't any lions. There are, however, wolves, and they were generally seen as very dangerous. The mythology around wolves in fairy tales is usually that the wolf is a villain, unlike stories from North America in which wolves are not seen that way at all. This is a fearsome beast in this particular European forest, and yet she has a relationship that is so warm. You can see that it's got the long legs of the wolf, the dark ruff. She is an older woman, which I adore. She's got whitish gray hair. It's spring. She's got flowers in her lap and flowers in her hair. She's sitting on the floor of the forest on a red blanket, so there's that passionate element, as well as some white flowers over on the side. So there's passion here, there's purity. She's wearing a white dress. I love that she's wearing the lace-up boots with the dress. And the boots are almost the same color as the wolf's fur. I liked this very much. I feel like it has the same kind of meaning, but it was brought from, rather than being in the Middle East, realizing they're doing the Forest of Enchantment. This is a European forest. What's a lion doing there? What would be the equivalent? And I think this was a great choice. I like the way they're leaning into each other. They're not looking directly in each other's eyes, but they are both obviously very content. He's leaning his head up against her face. We know that the main sense for dog family, particularly, and wolves in particular, is their sense of scent. And so he wants to smell her, and he wants to listen to her. She's not necessarily speaking here, but you know, from that earlier poem I had, maybe she will sing, maybe she will speak. He wants to hear and smell anything that is coming from her. Because they are both seem to be older, I enjoyed this card also, and I felt like this is an old friendship. This is not. She's just learning how to make friends with or tame this inner beast, this desire. This is something she's accomplished quite a ways ago, and they are good friends. Part of me wanted this to be a female, and sometimes I may go back in the poem, I don't know, and change it. But because usually there's one alpha male and one alpha female in a pack, I didn't want there to be any sense of antagonism between them. This seems very loving. So I made the wolf male. But on the other hand, I feel like, well, but don't we have these women friends that we have relationships with like that are like this? And we know the lion was a female symbol, although often the lion that is shown, it has a mane, so we know it is a male lion. So I go back and forth in that, and the poem is fairly new, so I'm not sure which way it's going to end up, but I will read it to you now. It's called Not a Dog. He is a wolf, not a dog, with his long legs and gray ruff. She sits on a red blanket in white dress and boots the same gray as his fur. Even sitting, he towers over her. She carries flowers, wears them in her white hair. They have been friends a long time. He leans his head close to her face to take in her scent, hear her heartbeat, her soft words. She rests against him, feels the strength of him, the warmth of his coat. Around them, the world is green. And that last line was very important to me. It seems to be a springtime card, but it also is showing that they are in harmony. And when they are in harmony, the world blooms. The world is lush. Again, it's that life force, that erotic force that runs through everything. And she and this inner desire, this inner beast, this inner wolf are in close relationship. And so everything around them is lush. So I'd like to look at three cards actually together, because they're three cards in which the beast is being fought in one way or another. Let's just take a look at this card from these three different decks. Strength from the Grimalkin Tarot, Strength from the Deviant Moon, and Strength from the Förhäxa. All three are new decks for me, and so I was very interested to see their strength cards. You can see in the Grimalkin, this is a dog who has foolishly decided to threaten a cat. There's a lemniscate between them, as if like this is a battle that's been being fought for a long time. But there's also butterflies flying around. The second is the Deviant Moon Tarot, and this is quite a formidable beast. We don't even really know what it is. And it is threatening not only him, but this entire encampment behind him. And this is happening at night. Those teeth are sharp. This is a very different card than the Lady and the Lion. And then this last card I'd like to look at is the Förhäxa Tarot. And in this tarot, you've got some kind of a seascape going on. You see all the waves and so forth, but the overarching image is this red and black dragon that's in the sky, and this woman, this is a Fae tarot, so this would be a fairy woman of some kind, tapping something toward it, some kind of a blue ball. So I thought, all right, let's take a look at these three. I'm going to read the poems from each of these and talk just a little bit about fighting the beast. So I want to start with the Grimalkin. Cat in a Birch Grove is the name of this poem. It has always been this way. Every dog, no matter how big, how long its canines, has to learn one lesson. Don't mess with a mama cat. He didn't expect this from a cat in a birch grove, though he might have paid some attention to the stripes. If he comes from wolves, she comes from tigers. The butterflies are unconcerned. They feast on nectar. So this seems like a moment when this dog is learning a lesson. Which one is the self here? I'm not sure. I can put myself in either of these positions. But the dog is certainly learning that this cat is not weak, is not prey, that this cat is going to win this fight. And I've actually seen this happen in real life so many times, where a dog comes running into a yard thinking he's going to chase this cat, not realizing she's a mama cat and there's kittens nearby. It seems to me, if we are the dog in this scenario, we have to pay attention to the importance of this cat and how protective it is and how strong it is. And that we might think that we are strong and macho and whatever, but if we haven't encountered this force, and again, the force as desire, as life energy, I think is so well depicted, because there are no kittens in this card, by the way. I imagine them there. But because I have seen mama cats act this way more than once, I imagined them in. But you have to learn that this inner strength, this inner life energy, erotic life energy, is stronger than you are. And so you have to make peace with it. So this may be the very beginning of this dog and cat making peace, and it's in a birch grove, which feels like a very warm and very peaceful place for me. There's a garden here that someone's planted by the edge of it that's white tulips and red either roses or poppies. The butterflies are quite unconcerned. This is a temporary fight. This is not like a fight to the death. And these two may eventually become friends. I've seen that happen as well. But right now, that dog does not trust that cat. But the cat knows just how strong she is. So I guess as I'm talking about this, I'm realizing that I'm thinking of the dog is sort of the self, the human side, the one who encounters something that seems uncontrollable, and also in some ways easy prey. So if you happen to be someone who fancies themselves as strong, as maybe as macho or any of those things, and you encounter this force, it might look small to you until you engage with it and you realize it's much stronger than you thought. And if you try to fight it, you will be wounded. Fighting it is not the way. So that's my take on the Grimalkin card, and I really appreciated it because it's a very different take. Now this next strength card is from the Deviant Moon. It seems to me that this monster, whatever it is, this is not the monster inside that is just erotic energy. This is a shadow card. This is, how do I deal with those impulses that are dangerous? It's nighttime. This strange beast comes up in the dark and needs to be fought. So let me read the poem. The poem is called The Throat of the Monster. He looks down the throat of the monster, its teeth like needles, its red tongue reaching for him, even now in his grip. Part crocodile, part dragon, or some prehistoric beast everyone thought was extinct. It must have felt safe approaching the city in moonlight, everyone asleep and helpless. He forces its mouth open, his eyes as fierce as the monster's. He will break its jaw. Leave it here in the sand. Someone, someday, will find its bones. It's interesting to me that in some of the early cards, the woman is actually prying the mouth open rather than shut. And what he's trying to do here, obviously, is break the jaw, in which case all those teeth are useless. But that monster, even in his grip, is trying to get him. I mean, that tongue is kind of creepy to me. They are both extremely intense. This feels like a fight to the death. He's not going to let go, and probably should not. Whatever dark shadow this is not going to be tamed by accepting it. So whatever shadow there is, whether it's addiction or violence or some trauma that has made you wary of the world and able to act in ways that you don't want to and that you don't feel you're in control of, those things have to be dealt with. Those things, the jaw has to be broken. So again, this made me think about the card in a way that I hadn't before, in a very shadow way. And I think that that shadow work is really important to do, because how do you embrace desire? If you have desires in yourself that are coming from unhealthy places, and that can end up in violence, that can hurt you, that can hurt others around you, you have to deal with those first. And I think that this card is saying that. And I'm very grateful for it, because it's just so easy to do the, oh yes, this is, we embrace our desire and then we go on to the next stage. Well, we're not all that healthy. A lot of us have been damaged. And if we have to take care of that first. So this unhealthy beast, this is not the tiger. This is not the wolf. This is an unhealthy beast that we can't even name it. And that might be the first thing you have to do. What the hell is this? Part crocodile, part dinosaur, part I don't know what. Something we thought was extinct. And I liked that line somehow came into the poem, because sometimes we think, oh, we dealt with that bad thing that happened to us. We dealt with that. That's not there anymore. Oh, well, it might be. So if this kind of monster kind of raises its head, then we have to become the warrior. We have to, and I love again that this man, and it's a man, not a woman, interestingly, is forcing the mouth open to break the jaw so that it cannot any longer do any evil with all those sharp teeth. That's the strength from the Deviant Moon, and I feel like I learned so much from this card. I do want to say that when you are dealing with this kind of a traumatic injury, that doing shadow work on your own is one thing, but I really want to encourage you to seek out professional help. A therapist can really, really help you so that you don't have to be alone when you confront these shadows. I'm not a therapist. I'm not doing this for therapy. I am simply speaking about shadow work. But if you have serious shadow work to do, it's best to do it with a professional who has a lot of experience with trauma and the best ways to deal with it. The card I want to look at is from the Förhäxa Tarot. And this is another situation where you have to fight this monster that has somehow shown up and is possibly causing the storm that is causing all these white caps and so forth in the sea. This dragon is full of fire. It's all red and black. And yet here's this fey woman dressed in, I almost wanted to say kelp, but it's not kelp. It's more of some kind of a sea fern or something. And she reaches up and she offers it this little blue ball. And so let me read the poem. It's called No One Has Told Him. This thin fey woman dressed in sea ferns next to the white-capped waves above the dragon all red and black sky. She offers it a small glowing blue ball, taps it toward his mouth, where it grabs and swallows, wings spread, head swung back. No one has told him about this magic, how he will find himself swimming the waves among dolphins and turtles and this woman. So I thought, okay, sometimes there's a dragon. Sometimes this is not the lion. This is not the wolf. Sometimes, as in the other card, there is a truly destructive something. But this is a different approach. She could not physically overtake him. She is not strong enough to physically overtake him. But she is Fae. She knows a spell. And she also knows that dragons are greedy. I love it that she's like tapping that little ball up in his direction. It feels like a basketball move. There's just something about that move where she's just tapping the ball toward him, and you know that he is going to like grab that up so greedily, so quickly, without any thought, because monsters like this don't think. They just act. And they are so confident in their own strength that they could never think that some little ball that they could eat could make any difference. But in fact, it does. No one has told him. No one has told him that this is going to transform him, that he is going to now be swimming in those waves with dolphins, with sea turtles, and with this woman. And I wanted to have that at the end of the poem because they have to reconcile in order for growth to happen. So she doesn't completely destroy him, but she transforms him. And then she can begin to share an environment with him and then eventually reconcile and bring this into her nature in a way that is not destructive. So looking at those three cards and seeing three different artists' visions of what do you do when the monster is not just desire, is not the wolf, is not the lion, but is something else, something that actually does need to be destroyed, then what do we do? And I love these three alternative answers, all three of which are valid in different situations. These are cards I would not necessarily welcome in a reading because they would tell me, oh geez, this work I have to do that I didn't even know necessarily I have to do. Because this is another card that I would do shadow work with. I would have to say, what is that dragon that's causing all this storm that is so sure in its ego of its strength? And the other important question for me is, what's in that blue ball? You know, like, what do I have to feed this monster with in order for it to transform? How do I do that? What is the magic? And that's such an important question. So another really wonderful card for doing shadow work. I think all three of these, but particularly the last two, are definitely cards that you can do shadow work with. And you can't get into the harmonious relationship you need with the strength card, with your erotic desire, with that particular strength, until these monsters, these shadows, are dealt with. I've had the Crow Tarot for some time, but I haven't really gotten to know it very much until lately. And I saw this card as I was looking for strength cards to work with, and I just burst into laughter. I love crows for one thing, and I love this crow. And this lion, who's either yawning or roaring, not clear, is wearing pink and white roses in his mane. So there's some lovely thing going on there that has to do with, I don't know, romance or gentleness or something. But this nonchalant crow is just standing there on his snout, not bothered at all. They're in a countryside. There's hills and trees and valleys and so on. The background is partly trees, partly the figures of people. So they're in the middle of the world here. Now, crows are very curious. And there is this very curious thing over the lion's head, and it is that figure 8. And so I couldn't help but think about that. And so I'll read you the poem that I wrote inspired by this card. And it is called The Figure 8. The lion stands, mouth open, ready to roar or yawn. His mane is woven with flowers. The crow sits on his open snout, investigating the figure 8, hovering in mid-air above the lion's head. Between the two of them, they can probably figure out what to do with it. Now, this is an entirely different take on the lion, and as you know, I like cards that make me laugh. I like cards that have a little bit of sense of humor to them. But one thing, again, about crows is they're curious, and they're also very resourceful. And I think they never stop thinking. And clearly, whatever this is that's appeared above the lion's head can be used for something, even if it's just play. Crows love to play. This lion is sort of like, I don't know, partly right now I'm just seeing it as a big yawn. But the crow knows that between the two of them, if they take a look at this, whatever it is, that the two of them will be able to figure out what it's for and how to use it. And wow, I think that is such an amazing metaphor. In this case, the crow is, I think, the self, and particularly the mental self, while the lion is that life force. And I see that partly because it's celebrated with all those roses and so forth, but not really sort of activated right now, just sort of like, well, I'm kind of tired today, or nothing's really interesting to me today. That doesn't happen to crows. Crows are always interested, even if it's just to play on this thing. It is something new in the environment, and therefore to be investigated. I think that cooperation between our desire, our life force, and our mentality is what's needed in order to figure out this question. And the question, of course, is one of infinity. This is like, what the hell are we doing here? Why is there something and not nothing? The big question. And that's one, actually, that's a question I should ask the tarot. I'm gaining courage because of Rachel Pollack, who would ask the most outrageous questions. But that is a question people have asked forever, and that physicists still ask. Why is there something and not nothing? And what do we do with this infinity? And how is it tied into our materiality? And how is it tied into our spirituality? This partnership that can happen, in this case between species, between the crow and the lion, is what also has to happen between us and that deep desire, that deep life force, that erotic force that we have. How do we figure out what it is that we need to do? How do we figure out our life purpose? How do we figure out why the hell are we here? And what do we do next? So I was quite delighted that a card that could just make me burst out laughing has such a profound understanding of what this card is about, or about what the meaning is, and has expanded that for me. So I want to do something completely different. This is an entirely different image of strength that has nothing to do with the Rider-Waite-Smith image, has nothing to do with the Lady and the Lion, but is a strength card. I lived in the desert for a year. Not in this desert. This looks like it's probably the Arizona desert. I lived in New Mexico, so we didn't have these particular kinds of cactus. But living in a dry place after growing up in New England, which is so lush and we have lots of rain here, to a place where it barely ever rains. I didn't even know how to dress. I never knew what those t-shirts were for that were thick, because here, if you want to wear a t-shirt, it's so humid, you want something really thin. But if you're living in the desert, you want a t-shirt that's got some thickness to it, because you need protection from the sun. So I was a complete newcomer. And so my take on this card is in some ways that of a newcomer, and also of a human being showing some respect for a non-human being that has found a way to live in this inhospitable place. And I call it cactus flower. I couldn't do it. One day in the desert sun and my skin would shrivel and burn. Feels so tight, I fear it will split. But she collects sunlight every day in the deep green of her core, and water, no matter how long it's been. Her leaves are fat and spined. No one will get to the treasure within. It must have rained recently. She remembers its cool touch, its flow up her roots, telling her it's time. The green buds open into yellow flowers. So I think some of the cards I've been enjoying, much to my surprise, do not have human beings in it. And this is true of the Spacious Tarot. I notice also, as I'm looking at the card, that the sky is full of clouds, so there's going to be some more rain. In the Southwest, I know at least in New Mexico, they have what they call the monsoon, which I expected to be like really rainy, because the only monsoons I had ever heard of were in Southeast Asia. But the monsoon in the Southwest merely means that it's probably going to rain at some point, sometime today. And people wait for it. They wait for the monsoon. And when that happens, these cactus are able to blossom. As a different kind of strength card, I absolutely adore this. And this is, I've talked about this before, the basic strength of our planet comes from the green plants, comes from the sunshine. They are the sunshine machines. They collect sunshine, they collect water, and they collect air, the carbon dioxide particularly, and they turn it into food. Enough food for themselves and enough food for us. So they are the basis of life on this planet. They also, in the process of making that food, also create oxygen. So when you talk about the life energy, and I said earlier that's the same erotic energy, that life energy that's in the center of stars, is definitely there in the green kingdom. So this card brings us back to the Lady and the Lion. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I think that the erotic component that we just touched on in the Hanson-Roberts picture is even clearer here. I feel so much that they are lovers. This feels very much to me like the sacred marriage of a woman to the land, which always ends up bringing a gift back to the people. There's an eclipse happening, so things are in particular kind of shadow, but also parts of it particularly brilliant. She is holding a golden globe in her hand. She's in his embrace. His paw comes around almost like a hand to hold hers, and she leans back with his hind leg around her and his tail. The lemniscate is very cleverly put into the picture as rivers, which I like very much because they both are symbols of life as well as infinity. And so I thought that was a very clever way to include that. There's a snake in this picture, but this is not a snake that is a temptress. This snake is probably from the older goddess tradition. I kind of love that it's a pinkish purple snake with black spots. I don't know any snakes like that. So a snake like this would certainly have caught my attention. And the other part of it is that it's on this tree. And the tree that it's on is the tree of life. Every leaf is a flame. But there is no forbidden fruit here. So when Rachel Pollack talks about desire, I feel like this is about that completely. It is not forbidden. It is, in fact, the strength that we all have. If it is a healthy one, there is nothing bad about that. That is the celebration of life itself. And so let me read you the poem. The poem's called The Eclipse. They are lovers. This brown-skinned woman and the golden beast with the magnificent mane. She sits within the embrace of his paws and hind leg, leaning against his side, his tail encircling them. The spotted purple snake winds around the tree, each leaf a flame. No one has forbidden. She holds a bowl as gold as the sun. Sometimes these things happen during eclipses. So eclipses have always been particularly interesting times. Sometimes in some cultures they are seen as negative times, and sometimes they are seen as positive time because they happen rarely, and so anything could happen. They're like another one of those times when magical things can happen. In this card, it's really positive. This relationship, which feels very much like lovers to me, is a positive card, and it is also telling us that if we embrace this, if we embrace our desire, if we embrace the life energy, the tree of life that was lost in the garden is still there. It is still there. That's what these flames are. They also represent the divine because they are all yod signs from the Hebrew alphabet. I was very happy to find this Lady in the Lion card, which really goes to that place. There's this wonderful line, I don't know if you know the movie La Belle et la Bête. It's based on Beauty and the Beast. It's from the 1930s in black and white, if any of you are film buffs. There's a point where at the end, of course, she comes back to him and she kisses him and saves his life, and he is transformed from the beast back into a human being. And there's a famous story, and I'm trying to remember who it was, and I'm going to say Greta Garbo. I will look it up and put it in the notes below. Stood up in the showing that they were doing in Hollywood of this movie and said, "Where's my beautiful beast?" And I thought of that line with this card because here he is. The beast is beautiful. The beast is not fearsome. The beast is a lover. This is another aspect of that card where you become not just friends. You've tamed the beast. You've learned how to live with that erotic force within you, but you have totally embraced it. You are one with it now. And so this seems like a very important and wonderful image of strength. So in this next card, we take, of course, the next step, which is not only have we become lovers, but we are in fact becoming the lion. This girl dressed all in yellow, she's growing ears like a lion. She is starting to grow lion whiskers. She has her arms around him. There's great love here. And this is the next step. You become lovers, and then you become the lion. The girl dressed in yellow is turning into a lion. Furry ears already rising amidst her long curls. She holds the lion close, her feet bare, one hand in his mane, the other under his chin. He leans into the curve of her, nuzzling her with his head, his eyes half closed, his black whiskers brushing her fingers. His purr, a low growl. Deep in her throat, a soft humming begins. So I just really went with the images in this poem and what I could see. We become the lion. We understand it so well. There is no separation anymore between that desire, that erotic life force, and ourselves. We don't have to be consciously trying to control it or thinking about it to bring it up. It's just always there. Wow, getting this card in a reading would be so amazing. It would be telling me that my relationship with this part of myself has gotten this far, that it is incorporated itself into me, that I am not separate from that erotic energy anymore. I don't have to worry about taming it. I'm not. It's not going to become a monster. I would be delighted to feel that this is where I am on this journey. That's a good place to be. Now in this tarot, this is very different, a different style of art, and quite delightful. But I know that it is a kind of art that you either respond to or you don't. The art and deck were designed by Rachel Pollack, and she's going back here to just the lion. So we saw the woman turning into the lion in the last card. In this card, it's just the lion. And she talks about how those images of the woman and the lion as goddess go back for thousands of years in the Middle East and parts of Africa. She also has this wonderful pink sky full of stars. So it's a very hopeful card, and perhaps a little mystical, because I haven't seen stars in a pink sky like that before, but I'm willing to believe in them. This tree, I imagine, has something to do with the tree of life. And if you look carefully, you see all those roots on this beautiful earth, this green hill that she's done here, that the roots are coming from the tree, but if you look at them, they're also coming from the feet of the lion. These little images along the bottom just seem like images of the world, water and air and so forth. And then there's this strange creature underneath the tree that looks very much like a caterpillar, or a caterpillar in a cocoon. The red around it with all the jagged edges kind of says to me that something's happening within this. So I'd like to read the poem for you. It's called Under the Pink Starry Sky. Just the lion. Under a tree on a green hill, her paws are rooted in the same earth as the tree. Beneath them, amidst the roots, a cocoon, where something with wings is growing. Beautiful. So this is a powerful lion. She's actually roaring, and you can hear a lion roar for like 4 or 5 miles, which is pretty amazing. She's also a red lion, which is, the color of passion. So I love that, that she is a red lion under a pink sky. So there's all this hope, all this passion. She is rooted in the earth along with that tree of life. And then there's this magic thing happening right under the tree, right between her legs. There's a cocoon. And I want to say the words again from the very end of the poem, where something with wings is growing. Beautiful. I worked on that because it's not something beautiful with wings. It's something with wings, because we know it's butterflies and moths that make these cocoons, is growing. And then the word beautiful, I put at the end because that's what the card, I think, is about spiritually. It's like when we get to this place where we're the lion, where we are connected to the earth, that entire erotic force there is a transformation that takes place. And it is a transformation into a winged creature. And it's also a transformation into beauty. Beauty might actually be the same word as desire in some ways. And I mean beauty in a deep spiritual way here. Everything is in harmony. She's on the earth. The tree of life is there. The entire universe seems to be smiling. That pink color is just so, so positive, and all the lovely stars. Whatever it is that is growing there has wings, and they are growing beautiful. And when we embrace this desire, when we embrace that part of ourselves and are no longer afraid of it, and it is not in opposition to us, we are transformed into something beautiful. So I thought this was a very interesting card. Rachel Pollack is always interesting. I don't always know how to read her cards, but I did feel like immediately moved by this one. So I decided I wanted to share it with you. And so here we are with the lion. Once again, I'm finding myself just really drawn into the image of the wild unknown. This lion is male, is not a female lion. People like to draw the male lion because of the mane being so amazing. But it also occurs to me in some ways that gender ultimately is not important here. This is that erotic energy of the universe. This spirit lion who is white and black and is carrying a white rose, not a red rose of passion, but a white rose of purity, and has the lemniscate clearly on the forehead. So is coming from this spiritual place. I just wanted to write a short poem sort of capturing what I felt was the essence of this card. He is a lion come from the spirit world into this sunlit savanna, carrying a white rose. How much love can one pure heart carry? So for me, this amazing strength card, which connects also to me very much to the High Priestess and the tiger, the image is so powerful. It carries so much. But the question that I had is, once we become one, as we have over the course of these cards, with the strength card, with the erotic force, if we do it with pure heart, the question is then, how much love can we carry? And of course, it's a rhetorical question because the answer is on his forehead, infinite, infinite. But it is work to get there. It is work to do that. I would love to get this in a reading. It would tell me I'm certainly working in the right way and that these energies are in balance in my life. This strength card is the one I wanted to leave you with because that is the question, but it's also the goal. It's like when you get the lady and the lion and you start by, closing the mouth, and then there becomes a relationship. And then perhaps you have to deal with some shadows before you can accept that beast because they have perverted that beast in some ways or stolen some of the power. But that when you do that, you eventually get to a place where you embrace this lion. You in some ways marry this lion. You become this lion. And this final card just showing us this is a lion. It could be carrying a red rose. It is carrying a white rose of purity. So this is a lion of pure heart, and the sun is shining on it. All is well.